The Black Widow herself, reduced to sitting in a conference room like any other government operative. Though I suppose after years of assassination and espionage, a normal conversation must feel almost refreshingly honest.
Clark Kent. Or do you prefer Kal-El today? Hard to keep track of which identity you're wearing when you change personas more often than most people change clothes. At least when I lie about who I am, I don't pretend it's for moral reasons. Must be exhausting. Maintaining that Boy Scout image while having enough power to level cities.
The identities serve different purposes. Clark Kent connects me to humanity. Superman protects them from threats they can't handle alone. Both are genuine parts of who I am. Your identities seem designed to manipulate and deceive whoever you're targeting at the moment. When was the last time you had a conversation where you weren't calculating how to use the information against someone later?
Every conversation is intelligence gathering. Every interaction reveals something useful about motivations, weaknesses, pressure points. The difference between us is that I'm honest about treating people as assets while you pretend your relationships are somehow pure despite the fact that everyone you care about becomes a target because of your dual existence. How many people have died simply for knowing Superman?
People die in wars, Natasha. The war between good and evil, between hope and despair. But people also live because someone chose to stand between them and the darkness. Your approach treats everyone as potential enemies or tools to be used. Mine treats them as people worth protecting, even when that protection comes with risks.
Worth protecting from what? Half the threats you face exist because you exist. Lex Luthor, Brainiac, Doomsday, they target Earth specifically because you're here. Your very presence makes this planet a battlefield in conflicts that have nothing to do with humanity's actual problems. You're not Earth's protector. You're the reason Earth needs protecting.
Evil existed long before I arrived on Earth, and it would continue existing if I disappeared tomorrow. The only difference would be that fewer people would survive it. Luthor was a criminal mastermind before he ever heard of Superman. He just found a more personal target for his ambitions. You've spent your career working for organizations that create the very problems they claim to solve. How is that different?
The organizations I work for don't pretend their methods are noble. SHIELD, the Avengers, even the Red Room, they all acknowledge that protecting people sometimes requires doing terrible things to terrible people. You maintain this fiction that you can save everyone without compromising your principles. That kind of moral absolutism is a luxury that costs other people their lives.
Moral principles aren't luxuries. They're foundations. Remove them, and you become exactly what you're fighting against. I've seen what happens when heroes decide the ends justify any means. They stop being heroes and become something else entirely. Your training taught you that everyone is expendable if the mission requires it. Mine taught me that the mission isn't worth completing if it requires sacrificing what you're trying to protect.
What I'm trying to protect is measurable. Lives saved, threats eliminated, operations completed successfully. What you're trying to protect is an abstract concept that feels good but accomplishes less. How many villains have you captured who later escaped to kill again? How many threats could have been permanently neutralized if you weren't so concerned with maintaining your moral purity?
Every villain I've captured who later reformed proves that people can change. Every life I've saved without killing demonstrates that there are always alternatives to execution. Your approach eliminates possibilities, both for redemption and for solutions that don't require bloodshed. Once you start deciding who deserves to die, where does that authority end? Who makes you judge an executioner?
Experience makes me judge. Results make me executioner. I've seen enough monsters disguised as humans to know that some people can't be redeemed, reformed, or reasoned with. They can only be stopped permanently. Your faith in human goodness is admirable until you calculate how many innocents die while you're giving killers second chances they don't deserve and won't use constructively.
And your faith in final solutions ignores the possibility that you might be wrong about someone, that the person you eliminate might have been redeemable, that the threat you neutralize permanently might have been neutralized temporarily through other means. Certainty about life and death decisions is dangerous because death doesn't allow for corrections when new information emerges.
New information is why intelligence work exists. I don't make decisions based on hope or faith. I make them based on evidence, analysis, and probability calculations. Your decisions are based on maintaining your self-image as someone who never crosses certain lines. That's not moral strength. That's moral vanity that prioritizes your conscience over practical results.
Those lines exist for reasons that transcend personal comfort. Every civilization that abandoned restraints in favor of efficiency eventually destroyed itself through the very methods it used to gain power. The moment you decide that principles can be suspended for practical reasons, you've already begun the process of becoming what you originally fought against. My conscience serves more than my own peace of mind. It serves as a safeguard against becoming a monster.
Monsters don't worry about becoming monsters. They just act without consideration for consequences beyond their immediate goals. I worry constantly about the choices I make, the people I eliminate, the methods I use. The difference is that I accept the weight of those choices instead of avoiding them entirely. Your safeguards don't prevent monster behavior. They just ensure that when monster behavior becomes necessary, someone else has to provide it.
Monster behavior is never necessary. It's just easier than finding better solutions. Every time someone chooses violence over alternatives, they're choosing expediency over excellence. The world doesn't need more efficient killers. It needs more effective peacemakers. Your skills could serve protection instead of elimination, creation instead of destruction. The choice to use them destructively isn't dictated by necessity. It's dictated by habit.
Habit formed through decades of discovering that peaceful solutions work beautifully right up until they don't. And when they don't work, innocent people die while heroes debate better alternatives. My methods may be harsh, but they're honest about the realities of protecting people from genuine threats. Your methods are idealistic fantasies that sound beautiful until someone has to deal with the practical consequences of your moral limitations.
The practical consequence of moral limitations is civilization itself. Every law, every institution, every agreement between nations exists because people chose restraint over unlimited power. Remove those limitations, and you don't get more effective protection. You get more effective tyranny. The only difference between a hero and a dictator is the willingness to accept limits on their own authority. Your approach eliminates those limits in favor of personal judgment. That's not heroism, that's authoritarianism with good intentions.
And your approach eliminates effectiveness in favor of moral comfort. When this conversation ends, you'll fly back to Metropolis and stop some robberies while international arms dealers, human traffickers, and terrorist organizations continue operating because they're too complex for your black and white morality to handle effectively. I'll go back to work stopping those operations through methods you couldn't stomach, but with results you can't achieve. Which approach actually protects more people